It was nearly midnight by the time I got home, exhausted and ready to just unwind. The house was silent, heavy with the type of stillness that clings to an empty place. I stepped into the entryway, my shoes clacking on the hardwood, and headed straight for the bathroom to wash my hands. As I turned on the faucet, I noticed something strange. The hand towel was folded differently than I usually left it, and the soap dispenser was pushed back a little farther than I remembered. Must have been in a rush this morning, I thought, dismissing the unease that crept in. After all, I'd been gone for most of the day and figured I'd probably just forgotten exactly how I'd left things. Leaving the bathroom, I went into the kitchen and popped a slice of leftover pizza in the microwave. The hum of the microwave filled the quiet air, and I found myself grateful for the background noise. After grabbing my plate, I plopped down on the couch in the living room, savoring each bite and letting my exhaustion settle over me like a heavy blanket. As I was finishing up my food, I pulled out my phone and called my boyfriend Matt. We'd been trying to find more time to catch up, so I figured a late-night call would be a nice way to end my day. I leaned back, listening to his familiar voice, filling him in on how busy work had been. I was so lost in the conversation that I didn't notice when my phone slipped from my hand and slid down the side of the couch. I cursed under my breath, kneeling to retrieve it. But as I reached my hand underneath, my eyes caught something that made my heart stop. There, wedged into the cramped space under the couch, was a figure. My throat went dry. I froze, my mind scrambling to process what I was seeing. A man was lying there, pressed tight against the shadows, his back to me. The strange angle of his arms, the thinness of his limbs, made him look unnatural, like a broken puppet. He hadn't moved, hadn't turned around, but I could see the subtle rise and fall of his chest. My hand found my phone, and I slowly, carefully, pulled it back toward me. Stay calm, I told myself. I took a shaky breath and brought the phone to my ear again, praying that my voice wouldn't betray the panic flooding through me. Hey babe, I'm going to go take a bath, I said, trying to keep my tone light. I'll call you back in a bit. I could feel Matt's confusion through the silence.
Are you okay? You sound a little off.
I forced a laugh, barely holding it together. No, I'm fine, just tired. I'll talk to you soon. Hanging up, I got up slowly, moving as if everything were perfectly normal. My legs felt like lead, each step measured and heavy as I made my way to the bathroom. My mind was spinning, fighting the instinct to bolt out the front door. But if he heard me run, no, I couldn't risk it. I had to play it smart. Once in the bathroom, I locked the door behind me, pressing my back against it and fighting to keep my breathing steady. My eyes scanned the small space, and I spotted the tiny window above the shower. Without a second thought, I turned on the faucet to mask any noise, praying he wouldn't think I'd caught on to his presence. I climbed onto the edge of the tub, pushing the window open, and squeezed myself through. The chill night air hit my skin as I stumbled onto the ground outside, barely managing to close the window behind me. My feet hit the pavement, and I bolted across the street to a neighbor's yard, crouching down and dialing Matt's number with trembling fingers. He picked up on the first ring.
What's going on? Are you okay?
There's someone in my house, I whispered, my voice shaking, under the couch. There was a pause, and I could hear him taking in a sharp breath.
I'm on my way. Stay right there. I'll call the police.
The minutes dragged on like hours as I waited, crouched behind a shrub across from my house. My eyes locked on the front door. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist. Every gust of wind felt like footsteps. I held my breath, half expecting the man to step outside any moment. Finally, I saw the red and blue lights flickering down the street. 2 squad cars pulled up, and 3 officers stepped out. I waved frantically, and one of them came over to talk to me while the others approached the house. Are you all right? He asked, his voice calm and steady. I nodded, barely able to form words, and pointed toward the house. There's a man. He's hiding under the couch. I don't know if he has a weapon. The officer nodded, his face serious. Stay here, we'll check it out. Matt arrived moments later, pulling up next to the police cars, his face pale as he rushed to my side. I collapsed into his arms, letting out a shaky breath as he whispered comforting words, his hand rubbing my back in soothing circles. We watched together, gripping each other tightly. As the officers disappeared inside, the silence was unbearable, broken only by the occasional murmur over the police radio. Then a sudden commotion erupted from inside. My heart leapt as one of the officers shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The door swung open and 2 officers emerged, struggling to restrain a man between them. He was thin, almost skeletal, with wild, unkempt hair and hollow eyes that darted around with frantic intensity. His clothes hung off him like rags, and his face twisted into a terrifying, manic grin as he spotted me. Our eyes locked, and a chill ran down my spine as he let out a garbled laugh. His gaze was unsettling, filled with an unnerving, feverish hunger. One of the officers tightened his grip, forcing his head down, but I could still feel his eyes on me, burning through me. The officer who'd stayed with us came over, his expression grim. He was in the bathroom doorway when we found him, holding this. He lifted a small plastic evidence bag, and my blood ran cold as I saw the glint of a long, thin knife inside. Matt's grip on my hand tightened, and I could feel him tense beside me. I looked up at the officer, my voice barely a whisper. Who is he? The officer's expression hardened. He escaped from a psychiatric facility nearby. He'd been missing for days, and we had every reason to believe he was dangerous. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This man had been in my home, lying in wait, close enough to reach out and touch me while I sat unsuspecting on the couch. The officer's voice softened, as if sensing my horror. "We're just glad you're safe," he said gently. "You did the right thing by not confronting him." But his words barely registered. I was lost in a whirlwind of emotions, trembling in Matt's arms as he held me, whispering that it was over, that I was safe now. But the memory of those wild eyes stayed with me, lingering long after the police cars disappeared into the night, long after I closed and locked my door, checking and rechecking every room before I dared sleep again.